Hello again. Now, I got an email from Nina this morning who said, been reading all about active and passive pickups, but she says, just don't get the concept. Could I explain? So yeah, for the benefit of Nina and anyone else who's confused about the difference between active pickups and passive pickups, here goes. If you've got an electric guitar, you'll have one or more of these things, pickups. And traditional guitar pickups all work pretty much the same way. What you've got inside is a magnet, and wrapped around that magnet some very thin copper wire, and that's wrapped around thousands of times. And there's a natural phenomenon So there's this effect whereby when the steel string moves through the magnetic field coming from the pickups, induces an electric current, and that electric current goes through the wires inside of the guitar, through the volume control, tone control, whatever other bits and bobs you've got, out the wire and into the amplifier. It's actually fairly simple. I'm not going to turn this into a physics lesson. If you're really interested in how all the science behind it works, there's plenty of articles out there on the web that will explain about that. But basically, that is how a traditional pickup works. What we now call a passive pickup. When they were first invented, they were just called pickups. Then, sometime later, somebody invented what's called the active pickup. So we need to make a distinction. So these became known as passive pickups. Now, an active pickup differs from this in a few ways. In other ways, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same principle. You've got a magnet surrounded by coils of wire, and as the string moves through the magnetic field, it induces an electric current. Some important differences though. With an active pickup, the number of windings around the magnetic core is far less wire. The result of that, the signal that comes out is actually a lot weaker. So you might think, what's the point of having something that's weaker? Well, this is where the active part comes in. Active pickups rely on a battery and some other circuitry inside the guitar to take the signal, the weaker signal that comes out of the pickup, and that signal is boosted electronically, and then that goes out through the volume controls, tone controls and so on, into the cable, into the amp. Now the active pickup was developed, and it gives us quite a few advantages over a traditional, what we now call a passive pickup. First of all, because they're less magnetically strong, they don't pull at the strings so much. What people don't always think about, they think about the string moving through the magnetic field and giving you sound. But at the same time, because the string is affected by the magnetism, the magnetic field coming from these pickups will actually dampen the string and actually stop it from vibrating so much. So it'll sustain less. It won't ring out so much, because if you think about it, the magnet's acting like a brake, slowing the string down. And because there's less magnetic force from an active pickup, that affects not so much, and as a result you get a fuller sound. So a lot of this is subjective. Some people like active pickups, some people dislike them. So what I'm kind of giving you is just what's generally considered general opinion from people who use things, but your experience may differ. So people tend to think they give quite a powerful sound because you don't have that magnetic damping effect. Also, because the sound is coming through some electronics, you've got a bit more control over the tone. So rather than just a simple tone control on an electric guitar, that's basically like a filter just cutting out top end. With an active pickup setup, you can be a bit more controlling over the tone. You can boost certain frequencies, bass boost or treble boost or whatever. And another thing about that electronic circuitry is, because the sound's being boosted, you can actually get a stronger output from the active pickup. So for all the basic output from the pickup in an active setup is less, by the time it goes to the active part of the circuitry and it's boosted, you actually get a stronger signal. And in traditional pickups, you have sort of like, regular pickups or higher output pickups, like got some hot rails on the guitar there, very high output, so you can drive the amp a little bit more. The active pickups, they've got more output again, so if you want to play high gain stuff, an active pickup's good for just pushing the amp a little bit more, pushing it into overdrive and give you a nice gain sort of sound in the amp. And they're also quite low noise. Some guitar pickups are worse than others for picking up electrical interference, particularly if you're playing somewhere there's fluorescent lighting or something. Traditional guitar pickups, passive guitar pickups, particularly single coils like we've got on the strap there, can be quite susceptible to hum. You can get around that. Humbucking pickups like this help to cut out some of that hum, but there's still possibly a bit of noise there when you crank the gain quite high. Active pickups, not so much. They're a bit quieter. And another advantage of active pickups, and this is kind of tied into the being able to play quite loud and quite high gain, is that they're not so susceptible to feedback. A passive pickup like this, even if it's a good one that's been wax potted to stop vibration, it's still susceptible to feedback. If you're stood in front of a really loud amp playing really loud, you can get feedback. Active pickups not so susceptible to feedback, which is why I think a lot of the metal guitar players like active pickups, because you can play really loud and you don't need to worry so much about feedback getting in the way. So it's all sounding quite good, isn't it, for active pickups? We've got lots of advantages over these traditional ones. So why isn't everybody using them? Well, there are a few what will be perceived as disadvantages as well. First off, because of their active nature, they're reliant on the battery being within the guitar, and if that battery goes flat, you have no sound out of your guitar. I'm not reliant on any sort of power source for this guitar, other than just plugging it into the amplifier and I'm away. I don't have any secondary power on the guitar. Active pickups, you absolutely need a battery. And there's also a nasty sort of point where the battery's starting to decay. If it's working at full power, you get a great sound. When the battery's starting to decay, the pickups can start to sound a bit unpleasant. And just generally in sound, active pickups have a sort of a sonic characteristic that sets them apart from passive pickups. Some people like them, some people don't. They tend to have quite a powerful sound, as I said, because they've got quite a high output. But a lot of people tend to find the sound of an active pickup sort of sterile, I suppose is the best way to describe it. Maybe it's not as organic as the sound from a passive pickup. It's subjective, it's what you like the sound of, but I mean, because of that reason, that particular sound you get from an active pickup, some people, active pickups just aren't for them. Also, active pickups, I said you've got a lot more control over the tone because of the active circuitry. You can do a few more bits and bobs with the knobs on the guitar. Because of the way that the active pickups work, something that a lot of people really don't like about active pickups is the fact that the volume control becomes less useful. It becomes much more like a switch. It's off or it's on. Whereas on a guitar with like traditional passive pickups, when you turn the volume control to some halfway position, you can kind of just back off the gain. It's like you're backing off the gain a little bit. So if you're playing on a dirty amp setting, you can turn the volume down a little bit, still get a clean sound, and then turn the volume up a bit more when you want a bit extra drive. Using it for like volume swells and so on. The volume control becomes part of the instrument, and because of the way that the active pickups work and like the electrical ratings of the type of potentiometer that you have to use on an active pickup, you don't have that sort of control, and some people really like having that control from the volume knob. So active pickups just aren't for them. I don't think it's something you could say, you know, I play this particular style of music, what sort of pickup should I use? Like I say, a lot of metal players really like high output active pickups, but I know a lot of metal guitarists who get an absolutely killer tone just with passive pickups. A lot of it just comes down to personal preference, and the sort of like when you hear yourself playing the guitar, the guitar's kind of like your voice, if you know what I mean. And I know some people find it difficult to hear their guitar playing with a particular voice. Like a friend of mine, he's just a complete single coil freak. Plays Strats, got a lot of Strats, plays Telecasters, and he just really wanted a Les Paul. So he bought a Les Paul, you know, passive pickups, but he just couldn't get away with the sound of the humbuckers. It just didn't sound right to him. And it's the same with active pickups and passive pickups. Some people will play guitar with active pickups, and that pickup voice, you know, for their playing, it just doesn't work for them, and it kind of makes them feel a bit more distant from the guitar. Now, I don't think there's any right or wrong type of pickup. It's the sort of thing you need to just try it and see what works for you. Some people play exclusively with passive pickups because they don't like active. Some people play exclusively with active. I know some people who can switch quite happily in between, just depending on what sort of sound they want for, you know, a particular job. I guess if you want an analogy, it's a bit like tea and coffee. You could get loads of different ways of making coffee, you know, regular Americano, espresso, cappuccino, latte, whatever, but it still fundamentally tastes a bit like coffee. You know, that's your active pickups. There's all sorts of different models of active pickup, but they all kind of have that active pickup sound. Then you've got all sorts of different types of tea. You've got Assam, you know, English breakfast, just traditional, Darjeeling, all of that sort of thing. They all fundamentally kind of taste like tea, and I guess that's kind of like your passive pickups. And some people will exclusively drink tea and just don't like coffee, vice versa. Other people quite happily drink one or the other as the mood suits them. There's nothing that says anything is right or anything is wrong. It all comes down to personal taste, like so many things on the guitar, whether it's a neck profile, if it's a stop tailpiece or a trem, single coil pickups or humbuckers, active pickups or passive. It all comes down to personal taste. So in summary, basically, an active pickup is like a passive pickup, but it has some extra electronics that are able to boost the signal by using an onboard battery and some circuitry, and it just basically gives you a different kind of sound. So nothing's right, nothing's wrong. It all comes down to personal taste. So for Nina and anyone else who's interested, I hope you found that useful and cleared up some of the confusion about the difference between active pickups and passive pickups. Thanks for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe on the link down there, and hopefully I'll see you in another video next time. Bye for now.